Hello everyone. I've been receiving a number of requests for making a video about undergraduate research. Now this is a topic which is very close to my heart because every academic year I spend a considerable amount of time mentoring undergraduate students for their undergraduate dissertation or some kind of project. So I think I'm in a good position to share a few tips with you, and I thought that if you just generally search on the internet, you will find lots of tips for research at the PhD level or even at the master's level, but there's not much tips going around for the undergraduate students, and certainly there's not much on YouTube also. So I think this is going to be really helpful to you. So without further ado, let's get into this. Before I actually share the tips, I would like to say that there are certain challenges associated with undergraduate research which are probably not there at the PhD level. So you have to keep those things in mind, and I will make it a point to share those things with you in this video. Okay, so before we can actually jump into the research part, you have to understand a few things. First of all, you have to understand the mentality of the professors with whom you are going to work with. Okay, so suppose you want to approach a professor. Please do not ask to do a project for a very short duration like 6 months. So at the undergraduate time scale, 6 months is a lot of time. It's more than an actual semester. But understand that at the time scale of research activities, 6 months is nothing. Okay, so if you have to achieve something substantial, it has to be significantly more than that. And no professor would be interested in, or very rarely a professor would be interested in working with you on such a short-term project. Okay, now another thing is that okay, let's be honest about it. Let's call a spade what it is. You see, whenever you are going to work with a professor at the as an undergraduate student, you have to appreciate that there is a selfish interest associated with the professor also. Okay, because why would he ever invest his time on introducing you to research if he's not getting anything out of it? It may sound like very business-like and commercial kind of enterprise. It's not actually that. Okay, try to appreciate the thing a little bit. His main priorities are teaching and supervision of PhD students, and if possible, supervision of postdocs. Now, when he has to spend his time with an undergraduate student, he has to actually introduce him to many things and help him to learn the ropes of the trade, the tricks of the trade. So there's a considerable time investment involved, and I guarantee you this, most of the professors, they enjoy doing this. Okay, given infinite amount of time, but their time is not infinite. Okay, so they'd be rather doing something else like teaching, supervision of PhD students, writing up papers, writing up books, writing up, very importantly, funding proposals, and making YouTube videos. Okay, jokes apart. Let's get into the business end of things. You see, as I was saying, there's a selfish interest of the professor. What is that? So when he's working with you, he actually wants to get something out of it, which will be of symbiotic, beneficial value to you also as an undergraduate student. So what is that? So maybe you get to write a paper. Okay, now that would be the pinnacle of achievement. Or maybe you get to get a patent out of some kind of a product that you develop, or maybe some kind of methodology you develop, or maybe some software also that you develop working with the professor. So these are some certain tangible outcomes which, if you put in the effort and show that you are really interested in doing those kinds of things, the professor will be really interested. Sometimes what happens is that at the undergraduate level, it may not be possible to do that kind of a full-fledged research. What the professor will do then is that he, out of a larger project of a product development or some kind of a scientific endeavor, he will share with you only a small part of it, on which if you work maybe along with another PhD student, there will be certain substantial outcome. Okay, so the professor will be very much interested in doing that kind of a work with you also. There's another kind of work which is actually very interesting. So sometimes what happens is that a professor is trying to get into a new line of research. Now that's a risky business. Okay, so a high stakes kind of thing like a PhD that those kinds of problems in an absolutely new area may not always be given to a PhD student. Okay, because his career is at stake. Directly, his career is at stake because of the extreme time constraints of a PhD. However, an undergraduate student, his degree is directly may not be associated with that project work. Okay, I'm not talking about the actual B.Tech project or the dual degree project the students have to do here. So maybe some kind of a project that the student is doing out of his own interest. That kind of a situation is ideal for the professor to share his absolutely new research idea or his foray into a new research direction with. Okay, so that can be really exciting work for you as well as with the professor. And I find that no matter what the age of the professor is, he will be really enthusiastic to work with you in those kinds of things. Okay, so this is about before you actually launch into the thing, what are the things to keep in mind. Once you actually get the project, once you start working with the professor, invariably what will happen is that he will share some kind of preliminary study material for you with you, preparatory material. I'm not talking about the actual primary references that he'll ask you to read upon, rather some kind of very like 0th level kind of study material and preparatory material. So once you get that, launch yourself heart and soul into reading up that stuff. And this is very exciting work. Everything is new and shiny. It's really nice. But this enthusiasm often doesn't last too long for many students. Well, what happens is that after that initial enthusiasm has died off, they realize that they have to actually read up stuff. And when they start reading, they realize that practically they don't know much. Okay, actually they don't know much. Sometimes they feel very flustered, very demotivated that they have been working so hard at their coursework, and so what is the end result of this? That they take up a study material and they can't understand even the basics of it. What's going on? So please do not feel bad about it. Okay, it has happened to the best of us, and even now when I go into some new kind of research area, it happens to me. I pick up some basic study material, I don't understand even the beginning parts of it. Okay, it is supposed to be this way. Don't feel bad about it. Just keep at it with a little bit of patience and persistence. It'll sort itself out. Okay, you have to have a little bit of patience, and the most important thing in research work is courage. Okay, so you have to have the courage. All right. Now, there is an opposite end of the spectrum or the process to it here also. What happens sometimes is that certain students have an extremely scholarly bent of mind, and whenever they get some new study material, they are tremendously pumped up and they launch themselves really heart and soul into it. In fact, they do it so much that it is to the detriment of the actual curriculum work. You have to understand that this project work is your side business. Your actual thing, your actual responsibility is to maintain your grade points in your actual curriculum. You cannot neglect that. Okay. Now let's say there is another scenario where the student is not neglecting his study work, his actual studies, the curriculum work, and is also maintaining a good reading routine with his project work in the initial days. Now, all that is fine, but even this can be a little bit dangerous if done too much. Like, reading is necessary, but far from sufficient. You see, the whole point when a professor shares with you the study material, the preparatory material, is that so that your level is upgraded to a point where you can actually start with the actual project work. And for that, you can't just stop at the reading, or if you just keep on doing the reading, that's not enough. So you have to actually develop the requisite skill sets. So what are the skill sets? Because if you don't develop the skill sets, effectively you have not progressed. You may have gained a lot of knowledge, but if you can't do anything with that knowledge with some proper skills, what good is it? Okay, you have to understand this. Okay, so there has to be some actionable progress. All right, so what are the skill sets that you can develop in this initial phase? Well, if it is a computational kind of work, then you can develop some kind of, certainly your professor will ask you to do this, but I'm just giving some examples. Like, you can learn some coding methods to code up some numerical methods which are used for solving various kinds of partial differential equations. Absolutely important in computational work. or maybe you'll get to learn some kind of image processing, which are important in physics, electronics, and certainly in the mechanical sciences also. Or maybe you have to learn some kind of new mathematical techniques. For example, if you're doing a kind of project which is heavy on the mathematical modeling and has a big flavor of the applied mathematics side, then maybe you have to learn something like asymptotic methods, or maybe you have to really be good with Fourier transforms and Laplace transforms. So these are like some general things which you may have to pick up, maybe some things related to complex analysis. Okay, and I'm not just talking about people from the mathematics department, even mechanical, civil, chemical, aerospace people, they have to pick up these things. Okay, now and this can also be a very exciting thing, but there is a danger even to this. So what is the danger? You see, once you start learning this kind of new skill set, there are lots of tutorials, lots of books and resources available on the internet itself, lots of innumerable video lectures and whatnot available to you. Okay, like you're living in the golden age of information availability. So you probably can do this a little bit too much, meaning that if your professor has asked you to pick up a certain skill set, maybe let's take for example coding. Okay, maybe you are learning to do something in MATLAB and Python. That's what the platform has been chosen for you, and you are starting to learn this. Now you can spend entire years learning just the thing in all its generality, but do you really think that is necessary for your project? Maybe you need only a small subset of the skill set there. You don't need to learn the whole of MATLAB, you don't need to learn the whole of Python. Okay, nobody can do that, but I mean, I'm talking about a large chunk of it. So try to pick what you need and then try to get ready for your actual project work as soon as possible, because time is of premium. All right. Next, another important thing, okay, another danger. So as far as skill sets are concerned, one important skill sets many times which will be asked to pick up is learning some kind of commercial software, or maybe it's a free and open source software, but some kind of package. Okay, maybe some kind of 500 element package, and there are lots of them out there. So when you start learning these things, these have reached such a good level of maturity that people without proper background can actually run this software and get some beautiful plots, like red, blue, green, yellow plots look very beautiful. It gives a certain satisfaction to you. It makes you feel apparently very productive once you start doing those tutorials of those software. But I always caution this: when you're using such a software, are you really aware of the backend which lies at the or the fundamentals which are at the backend of that software? I've seen certain students who run these kinds of commercial packages and they don't even know that finite element methods is being used at the backend. I mean, what is going on? Don't do this. Okay, sometimes, I mean, what happens is that they are running simulations, they're getting plots, but at the end of the day, if I ask them, okay, tell me what are the partial differential equations which are being solved for solving this solid mechanics problem, or this fluid mechanics problem, or this heat transfer problem, no answer. They don't know. Okay, so this is very bad. So please do not do this. Okay, please do not do this. I warn you and I request you. Okay, next we have to come to the actual project work. So okay, let's say that you have done your initial preparatory work, study work, skill sets have been developed. Oh, by the way, I forgot. There are certain ancillary skill sets also that you have to develop. Okay, as in these initial days. So if you just keep on working and you can't report what you are doing, then it is not of much value. So a very crucial aspect of your project work and this learning to do research is developing these ancillary skill sets. What are these ancillary skill sets? Like report writing, like making publication quality figures. Okay, so I mean, this is such a huge topic, and on this you will find innumerable videos, and maybe if I get the time and the tempo to do this, I will make some videos myself. I did make one video regarding the use of LaTeX to create the citation list. So anyway, so you have to develop these ancillary skill sets also. Okay, and there are a number of free and open source software to explore, to learn, and that can be actually fun. Okay, so maybe instead of watching too much Netflix and spending too much time on YouTube watching this and that, maybe a little bit of time can be invested on learning that also. And actually on YouTube there are some great tutorials to learn those things also. All right, so once the actual project starts, okay, so what will usually happen is that your professor will share 1 or 2 papers with you. Papers means scientific papers, technical papers, as your primary references. You're supposed to study them, understand them properly. At the very outset, you won't understand anything. Take that as given. Okay, you won't understand much, but you should be discussing with your professor to get this thing absolutely clear, that what is the overall story that he's expecting to cover. Okay, like from the start to the end, what is the overall idea here? Okay, he will invariably have some kind of an idea. Okay, try to make that connection with your brain and the professor's brain. So if you're on the same page, then you'll find the whole going rather, I won't say easy, but it will ease your transition from just an undergraduate student to an undergraduate researcher. That's the point I want to make. All right. So at this stage, you should be absolutely clear by discussing with the professor that if he wants you to reproduce the results of that, because many a time this is what is going to happen. He will want you to reproduce some of the results of those papers. Once you get that instruction, launch yourself heart and soul into it. This is not the stage where you go about reading stuff and generally learning stuff to improve your knowledge. No, this is action time. On a mission mode, try to reproduce the results, and this is the part where the various skill sets that you have been developing in the previous stage of your work, that will start to pay dividends. Okay, I assure you, you will face like seemingly insurmountable challenges, but don't get flustered. Okay, as always, I'm saying again that you have to have the courage. Okay, plus understand that you are just reproducing the result. Okay, at this stage, it has been done by other people. They have done it. You can also do it. Okay, maybe it will take a little bit more time because you're inexperienced, but it can be done. Okay, so once this is done, now comes the most important thing, the actual project work, meaning the thing that your professor wants you to do. So this is the stage where many people flounder. Okay, so what are the challenges here? The challenge here is that unlike coursework, okay, the question which is posed by the professor does not necessarily have an answer. Okay, it may have an answer, it may not have an answer. What kind of answer, even the professor does not know. And this is the heart and soul of research work, that the most experienced person involved in the research does not know by definition of the research work what is the answer. If the answer is known, then this is not research work. Okay, this is a fundamental thing which many undergraduate students do not understand. Okay, or do not appreciate. Okay, you have to appreciate this. The answer is not known. Okay, so this is a peculiar kind of situation. So all your life you have been doing problems for which the answer is always there at the back of the book, or it is there in the teacher's head. But this is a situation where you are on your own. Okay, you may get help from PhD students or from the seniors in the professor's research group, but ultimately at the end of the day, when you are sitting down, pen in hand or computer in front of the computer, you are on your own. This is the part which is like a shock to many students. Okay, sometimes they even think that the professor is not guiding them properly. This is not true. Okay, it is supposed to be this abstract, vague, unknown thing. You are making your way into uncharted territory. Okay, so always remember this. I want to give an example here that you see, where do you find the hardest kind of problems? Okay, So there can be some debates about it, but we can all appreciate the fact that some of the hardest problems have been posed in the International Mathematics Olympiads. Okay, now let's take the hardest problem of the International Mathematics Olympiad, like the hardest ever in the history of International Mathematics Olympiad. Even that problem has a solution. It's guaranteed that there is a solution. Okay, but your research problem may or may not have a solution. Okay, that is the challenge there. But the good thing is that no matter how small, no matter how humble the research question it is your own. It is your baby. Okay, if you figure it out, if you nurture it, and if you develop it, it is completely your thing, your creation. Okay, there's a tremendous fulfillment and happiness associated with nurturing and developing something so creatively. Okay, it's almost like artwork. Okay, like you have to actually, I'm not being very good with my words here. You have to actually experience that joy of seeing an unknown thing through on your own, like the kind of satisfaction, the exhilaration it will find in your heart, that cannot be described. Okay, like that is why I say that every undergraduate student should do a little bit of research just to experience that joy. I'm sure there will be many converts who will start thinking seriously about going for higher studies if they once feel that joy. It's like an addiction. Okay, I don't know if I'm sharing this joy with you sufficiently enough, but it is there. Okay, it's almost like an addictive joy. I think I've given you the gist of the matter here. There are certain logistical things to keep in mind, that once you have started working in a professor's research group, as I said earlier, maybe he'll put you in touch with one of his PhD students. But that is only to guide you at some crucial points. Maybe he's already experienced in doing certain things, and take my word for it, in certain kinds of a more mature research work, if there's a senior enough PhD student involved, he will probably know how to execute some of the things much better than the professor. So it's actually good for you if you're getting involved with discussing things with him. Just remember that you should take his help, the PhD student's help of the in the group. You should take the help of the professor. You should always keep him updated. I know of certain students who can take up challenges, who are extremely intellectually capable, academically serious, but what happens is that once they get this kind of a challenge, they take it on their ego that I will not show my face to my professor unless I can solve this problem. It's not like that. It's like almost like a collaborative give and take kind of experience that you have with the professor. Discuss with him and tell him about the roadblocks you are facing. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, you shouldn't do this too much, because as I said earlier, it is your baby. You have to nurture it. Okay, so at every roadblock that you face, try to surmount it on your own before running to your professor. Okay, most of the times you will not have the answer directly. He can always give you certain pointers, but ultimately you have to figure it out. Okay, so if there is one thing that you need to take away, or maybe a couple of things you need to take away from this video, is that first of all, courage, and second is that you must appreciate that you are on your own. You have to get the things done on your own. Okay, so as we say in KGP parlance, you have to do this with a lot of tempo. All right, thank you very much, and all the best if you're embarking on this wonderful and exciting journey of undergraduate research. Thank you very much.